Good evening, dear students.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, yeah. It was a little long gap, right? That's why I have planned for two classes continuously today and tomorrow. So we shall continue with redox reaction. We have done up to 19th question. We need 20th question. Okay. So all of you are ready. Shall I proceed now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How about remaining people? Are you there? Having food? Hmm?
Yes, sir.
I'm sure Nikita is not there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you all ready? Or still not settled down? Okay, how about Manasi?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Srihari? Yes, ma'am. That's fine. Hope all of you are listening. Let me start the session. Okay. Okay. Looking at this 20th question, we need to take up. I'll just read out. In the reaction given here, the oxidation state of sulfur is decreased, increased, unchanged, none of this. So looking at this, sulfur is there in these two compounds, right? So on the reactant side, sodium thiosulfate, sodium tetrathionate we say. So we just need to know the structures. Uh, then only you can calculate. If you calculate average, it may not be correct. But here, especially in this case, even if you calculate average, the question is framed in such a way that you will get the answer. But that's not the way to do it. So well, let's write sodium thiosulfate structure. See this Na2 S2O3 has which ion? Thiosulfate ion. S2O3 2 minus it has, right? So the structure of this thiosulfate ion is central sulfur is connected to another sulfur by a double bond, and two negative charges are there. You should know whenever negative charges are there, it will be there on oxygen because it is more electronegative, and thus the negatively charged oxygen will be singly bound to the central sulfur, and there is one more oxygen which is doubly bound. Now the single bonded oxygen would induce positive charge +1 charge onto the sulfur. So this singly bonded +1. This doubly bonded will be 2 minus. So therefore sulfur, because of which becomes 2 plus. And sulfur to sulfur is a non-polar interaction, right? So this sulfur is 0. So because of that, the central sulfur doesn't carry any positive charge. So total negative is 4 negative, right? Totally 4 negative. So total positive is 4 positive. So oxidation state of the sulfur is +4. Whereas in sodium tetrathionate, if you see the structure, there is 4 sulfur connected to one another, okay? Like this. And there are 6 oxygen, and this is 2 sodium. If you leave sodium, it is actually Na2S4O6. This contains the ion S4O6 2 minus tetrathionate ion, right? So there are 6 oxygen, no? They will be connected to terminal sulfur, and there are 2 negative charges. So each sulfur has 2 doubly bound oxygen and 1 single bond oxygen with negative charge. This is the structure. If you see what is the oxidation state now, the terminal sulfur of the chain of the molecule. So doubly bonded is 2 minus, singly bonded 1 minus, this is 2 minus. So overall 5 negative charges. The sulfur would therefore bear +5. Same thing on the other end, 2 minus, 2 minus, -1. This is +1. Whereas non-terminal in between is 0. So you people have to tell me now the oxidation state of sulfur on the left hand side, reactant side is +4. When it becomes sodium tetrathionate, it becomes +5. So plus,
Sir, plus 5 by 2, no, sir.
pardon me?
Sir, it will be 5 by 2, no, sir. 2 sulfurs.
No, each sulfur is plus 5. Each sulfur is
Yes, sir.
okay. So what is
Thoughts
the answer therefore?
increased.
That's all. Okay. Let me know if it is complete. Shall I proceed now?
Yes, sir.
Right, Spurti. 21 will take. In which reaction is hydrogen acting as an oxidizing agent? So generally, hydrogen, wherever it reacts, H becomes H plus, right? It loses electron, undergoes oxidation. The one which undergoes oxidation is a reducing agent. But here they're asking in which case it acts as oxidizing agent. Anybody?
Sir, with nitrogen to ammonia.
Nitrogen to ammonia, nitrogen when combined with hydrogen it becomes NH3 where hydrogen is positive. It's a reducing agent. If hydrogen has to act as oxidizing agent, it has to undergo reduction. Means hydrogen should gain electron and becomes H minus. So in which case hydrogen exists as H minus, hydride ion,
LiH.
whenever it reacts with metals. Correct, no? So lithium is more electropositive. When it combines with hydrogen, it forms a lithium hydride, where lithium itself is positive, hydrogen is negative. So what has happened here? So hydrogen has gained electron. The one which gains electron undergoes reduction. The one which undergoes reduction is a oxidizing agent. So with lithium, to give lithium hydride, hydrogen is an oxidizing agent. Okay, I shall proceed now.
Yes, sir.
22nd. Addition of zinc powder to copper sulfate solution precipitates copper due to. Now this is the concept of electrochemical series. Zinc is above. When it is added to copper sulfate below, copper precipitates because zinc reduces copper to Cu2 plus to copper. So reduction of Cu2 plus. The reaction, zinc, Cu2 plus in the copper sulfate. Zinc undergoes loss of electron. It reduces Cu2 plus to Cu. Okay. So reduction of Cu2. Okay, I proceed. 23rd, in the reaction between acidified potassium dichromate and iron 2 ions, shown by the equation, what is correct? The color of the solution changes, iron 2 is reduced, dichromate ions are reduced, hydrogens are reduced. What's correct? Hmm?
Sir, hydrogen ions are reduced.
Okay. Where is hydrogen ion reduced? On the left hand side, H is plus 1. On the right hand side also in water, hydrogen is plus 1 only. Not changed. Correct.
Sir, 14 no, sir, here. 14. There, plus 2.
No, no.
Plus 1.
Number doesn't matter. What is the oxidation state? They ask, right? Hmm. Now, dichromate ion is from potassium dichromate. Potassium dichromate is what kind of reagent is that? What kind of
Oxidizing.
reagent is that?
Oxidizing.
Alva. So there must be something about potassium dichromate. So now, what is the oxidation state of dichromate ion in chromium in dichromate ion? Cr2O7 2 minus. What is the oxidation state? You can see here
Plus 4.
2x minus 14 is equal to minus 2. So 2x is equal to plus 12. So x is equal to plus 6. So chromium is plus 6. Right? When it is converted to Cr plus 3 on the right hand side in the reaction.
Dichromate ions reduced.
So plus 6 has become plus 3 means gain of 3 electrons means dichromate ions are reduced. Okay. So I'll proceed. 24th. In the reaction of O3 and H2O2, the later acts as see O3 also has a tendency to get converted to oxygen. Rather, H2O2 decompose to give water and oxygen. Okay, so both will form oxygen. If both react with each other, they'll be much more happy to liberate oxygen. Like this. Right now. So now, if you see what has happened to later means H2O2, they are asking. The oxidation state of oxygen in hydrogen peroxide is -1. When it is converted to H2O after the reaction is over, it is 2 minus. So tell me from -1 to -2, it is gain of electron, means reduction. Therefore, oxidizing agent.
Yes, sir.
Yes. 25 will take up. H2S reacts with halogens in which the halogens see halogens have strong affinity for hydrogen. So whenever halogens react with any molecule which contains hydrogen, they snatch away the hydrogen. So at whatever cost, so it becomes HCl. Sulfur gets deposited. Is the reaction. So this shows affinity for halogen. You would have studied in P block elements in second QC also. So in the course, what has happened to halogen if you check?
Reduced, sir.
0 to -1. So gain of electron means reduction. Halogens are reduced. Okay, I shall proceed. In the reaction given here, HNO3 acts as. What has happened to HNO3 in the reaction? Just find out, you will get the answer. Can anybody answer this now?
Oxidizing agent, sir.
Correct. So if you see what is the oxidation state of the nitrogen here, hydrogen plus 1, 3 oxygen is minus 6. So nitrogen should be plus 5 so that overall charge is balanced. So nitrogen oxidation state is plus 5. In NO2, 2 oxygen is minus 4. Correct? Minus 2 into 2. So it's minus 4. And therefore nitrogen is 4 plus. So from plus 5 to plus 4, gain of electron, reduction. The one which undergoes reduction is an oxidizing agent. Next.
Sir,
27.
what is aluminothermic, sir?
In the aluminothermic process, aluminum acts as. What is your question, Skanda?
Sir, what is aluminothermic, sir?
Actually, that would have been my question. Since you asked me in the beginning itself, then it has become my responsibility to answer this now. Can anybody tell me what is aluminothermite process or aluminothermic process? Anybody? The concept from metallurgy, Dillingham diagram. So aluminothermic process is a process where aluminum metal is used as a reducing agent to extract metal from its ore, oxide ore particularly. So generally in metallurgy, carbon is used as reducing agent. But in some cases, carbon forms metal carbonate, metal carbides. Whenever metal combines with carbon to form metal carbide, in such cases, metal will become waste. So carbon can't be used as reducing agent. So we go for alternative reducing agents. The recommendation is by Ellingham diagram always. So you just go through Ellingham diagram, you can get a selection of reducing agents for the reduction of metal oxides. In some cases, aluminum becomes effective alternative as a reducing agent for carbon. So wherever aluminum is used as a reducing agent, it is called aluminothermite process. One such example of aluminothermite process from Ellingham diagram itself, Cr2O3. Okay, Cr2O3 is the oxide of chromium. Here carbon can't be used as a reducing agent because the chromium at the end will be combining with carbon to form chromium carbide. So we go for aluminum. So if you heat it strong, it becomes Al2O3 and chromium liberates out. Okay, so this is reduction using aluminum. This is reducing agent. So this is called aluminothermite. So aluminothermite process is a process where aluminum is used as reducing agent.
Yes, sir.
28. Saline hydrides are see normal saline is sodium chloride solution 0.9%. Like that, saline means alkaline hydrides are saline hydrides. Okay, or alkali hydrides. Are called saline. Okay, so the example being lithium hydride, sodium hydride, there are saline hydrides. What is these hydrides? They readily liberate hydrogen gas. The one which can liberate hydrogen are stronger reducing agents. So the answer is strong reductants. Liberate hydrogen.
Sir, reductant and reducing agent mean both
Yeah,
mean
yeah, both
same.
are same. Both are same. Reductant, reducing agents. Oxidants, oxidizing agents. So short form.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. We'll go to next question. Continue. The oxo acid, which acts both as oxidizing and reducing agent is. The oxo acid, which acts both as oxidizing agent and reducing. Generally, oxidizing agents undergo what?
Reduction,
Reduction. Reducing agent undergo
oxidation.
oxidation. Now, if some acid, oxo acid means which contains oxygen and OH group, that's all. Okay. So, if some acid can act as oxidizing as well as reducing agent, what is the thing that you should conclude? That acid should be ready to undergo oxidation as well as reduction. Correct? No. So, an oxidizing agent undergo reduction and reducing agent undergo oxidation. If some substance is acting as both, that substance should be ready to undergo both oxidation and reduction. Now, which substance can undergo both oxidation and reduction? In whichever substance the central atom is in moderate oxidation state, that can readily undergo both oxidation and reduction. If you calculate oxidation state of sulfur in H2SO4, it is +6. That is the maximum for sulfur. So sulfur cannot lose any more electron. So sulfur in H2SO4 is in highest oxidation state. It can only gain electron. Gaining electron means reduction. The one which undergo reduction is oxidizing agent. So it can only act as oxidizing agent. In phosphoric acid, if you calculate oxidation state, this is hydrogen +3, oxygen -8, this is +1. So that is the highest oxidation state. So phosphorus can only gain electron, not lose electron. So again, it can only act as oxidizing agent. In option D, perchloric acid, this is. To calculate oxidation state, so chlorine central atom is +7. Highest oxidation state. So it can only gain electron, undergo reduction, act as oxidizing agent. The remaining answer is only option C, but let's see how come the HNO2 can act both as oxidizing and reducing. See, the nitrogen can have oxidation state like this. You have 0 +1. Nitrogen exists in variety of compounds, okay, in different oxidation state. So from -3 to +5, it can go up to the oxidation stage. Okay, it varies so much. Ammonia, for example, in NH3, nitrogen is -, whereas in HNO3, nitrogen is +5. Okay, so 3- is the lowest, +5 is the highest oxidation state, right? Now, coming to HNO2. In HNO2, if you calculate oxidation state, this is -4, 2 oxygen, this is +1. So this nitrogen is +3. So nitrogen is +3, oxidation state is the moderate oxidation state. So it can lose electron, 2 more, and go up to +5 oxidation state. So whenever N3 plus loses electron, undergoes oxidation. So the one which undergo oxidation is a reducing agent. It can act as reducing agent. Similarly, this nitrogen can gain 3 electron or 6 electron. Okay, up to 6 electron it can gain and become N3- nitrogen. Or if it gains 3 electron, it becomes nitrogen atom. The one which undergo gain of electron is undergoing reduction. The one which undergoes reduction is a oxidizing agent. So what is the conclusion? In any substance, if the central atom is in the moderate oxidation state, it can change its oxidation state to highest and lowest. In converting from highest to lowest, it can act as reducing agent as well as oxidizing agent. So option C. Is that okay?
Sir, what is HNO2, sir, name?
Nitrous acid. HNO3 is nitric acid. HNO2 is nitrous acid, lower oxidation. Higher oxidation state is nitric, nitrous.
Yes, sir.
We'll take up 30th.
Option D, sir.
Which metal exhibit more than one oxidation? D. Why?
Sir, Fe2 plus Fe3 plus.
So D block element. D block elements exhibit variable oxidation state. Next. 31. In the reaction here, the substance, undergoing oxidation is which is the substance undergoing oxidation. I'm not getting answers from others who are part of this class.
Sir, it's 2O2, sir.
Okay. How about others? Come on. Why there is a lot of non-cooperation? Where is Amshu? Amshu answers.
Yes, sir.
What is the answer?
Option D.
None of these.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, Sujan. Where is Nikita? Okay, Nikita, that's fine. So how about Manasi? What's your answer?
Sir, is it Na2CO3?
Why do you think so? Okay, I'll just give the oxidation state of reactants and products in each case. On the left hand side, hydrogen is +1, oxygen is -1, sodium is +1, entire carbonate, okay, carbon is +4 if you calculate that. Oxygen, each oxygen is 2-. I'm just writing each oxygen. Okay, on the right hand side, sodium is +1. This is sodium peroxide, oxygen is -1. And in carbon dioxide, oxygen is 2-, carbon is +4. Hydrogen is +1, oxygen is -2. So if you see, there is peroxide on the left hand side, which has become sodium peroxide on the right hand side with -1 oxidation state. Hydrogen is +1 on either side, sodium is +1, carbon is +4, oxygen other than peroxide, it is -2. So none of the elements have changed their oxidation state. So it's simply a question to confuse you. None of this is correct.
Sir, can you please explain again, sir?
Now the question is the substance undergoing oxidation they're asking. None of them are undergoing oxidation state because oxidation state of all the elements, atoms on the left hand side and right hand side is same, remaining same. They're not changing anything. If oxidation, if any substance is undergoing oxidation, its oxidation number has to increase because due to loss of electron. None of them are changing oxidation state. So that's why none of this is correct. Just find out the oxidation state of every element. Hydrogen, oxygen, everything remains same.
Yes, sir, got it.
Okay. So this is the question to confuse you. Okay. One similar question, which is a redox reaction. A redox reaction is one where there should be decrease in and increase in oxidation number, right?
Yes,
so
sir.
Find out any one element in any of these reactions undergoing change in oxidation number. That's all.
Sir, option 3.
Which element is undergoing
Option D,
change in
sir.
oxidation number?
Option D, FeCl3 to FeCl2.
Option D. You said 3.
Sir, confused and said D, sir.
Okay. So this is exactly correct. Option D. Because iron is +3. Okay. Sn is +2. This I have given you the example of. Okay. So iron has changed from +3 to +2. Tin has changed from +4 to +2. Sorry, this is +2. This is +2 to +4. Right? So you can see iron is decreasing oxidation number, tin is increasing oxidation number. So it should be a redox reaction. Oxidation number decreases, reduction. Correct?
Yes, sir.
So +2 to +4, oxidation number increases, oxidation. So option D is correct. Let's proceed now.
Yes, sir.
Lithium aluminum hydride is used as,
Reducing agent.
it's a powerful reducing agent. 34. In the presence of moist sulfur dioxide.
Sir, doubt,
In the
sir.
presence of, tell me.
Sir, what is mordant, sir? Mordant.
Mordant is a substance which holds dye. That's a different thing. Okay. Which holds dye to the surface. Mordant. Simply they have given random answers. 34. In the presence of moisture, sulfur dioxide can, I'll give you the reaction. You will be able to assess what is happening. Okay. So SO2 when react with H2, SO4 becomes a moisture. It becomes H2SO4. Moisture means water. Okay. So it becomes H2SO4. Okay, liberating two hydrogen actually. It also acts as a reducing agent. So it liberates, and also a mild bleaching agent. Anyhow, what has happened to sulfur? If you see, sulfur oxidation state on the reactant side is +4, and here +6. So can you tell me? Loss of 2 electrons. This you would have studied in P block. Sulfur dioxide and its properties.
Yes, sir.
Next, 35. The equivalent mass of reductant or oxidant is given by. Molar mass of reducing agent or oxidizing agent divided by
Option D.
change in oxidation number per mole or number of electrons lost or gained by one molecule of reductant or oxidant. Okay. So equivalent mass, molar mass divided by valency. Equivalent mass is equal to molar mass divided by. They are asking just reductant or oxidant. Now option B is for an element. It's a correct equation, but for an element, not for oxidant or reductant. And the option C is for a salt. Equation is correct, but for a salt. They're asking for reductant or oxidant, so option A itself is correct. See, equations are correct. Still, you have to be more careful. Immediately, you would think option D is correct. But for a oxidant or reductant, it has to be divided by change in oxidation number per mole of the reductant or oxidant.
Sir, option 2 is for what, sir?
For element, it is. Like for example, if you want to calculate equivalent mass of some iron, where its oxidation number is +2. So its molar mass divided by 2. For ferric ion, molar mass divided by 3. Like equivalent mass of salt, like for example, sodium chloride. Okay, molar mass divided by total charge on cation. So total charge on cation is +1. So C for salt, B for an element, and A is the answer.
Yes, sir.
36. KMnO4 acts as dash indicator in its redox reactions.
Self-indicator.
Because it by itself is a colored compound, right? So it can impart a pale pink color at the end bond. So therefore, it is called self-indicator. Okay. Next 37. Which one is not a redox titration? So where would you expect a redox reaction to not happen? Here you see option D. Can you predict the reaction here? AgNO3 when combines with KCl, what would happen?
Sir, AgCl plus KNO3.
Can. Now this is just a precipitation reaction. If you see oxidation numbers of reactants and products, all are same. So Ag plus NO3 minus K plus Cl minus plus minus K plus minus. So it's not a redox titration at all. Redox titration means there should be change in oxidation number, decrease and increase. So option D is just a precipitation reaction, or you can even say double decomposition.
Sir, what is hypo, sir?
Hypo is nothing but sodium thiosulfate. This itself is hypo. Na2S2O. Hypo is another name for sodium. Okay. Next. 38. The oxidation numbers of manganese in KMnO4, MnSO4, K2MnO. Potassium manganate is K2MnO. What are the oxidation
Option
numbers?
A, sir.
Pardon me?
Option A, sir.
Option A. So this Mn here is +7. This sulfate is -2. So Mn is +2. K2MnO4 is +6. So option A is the right answer. (39) The oxidation number of sulfur in S2F2 and H2S respectively will be.
Option D, sir.
So S2F2, 2 fluorine is 2 minus, 2 sulfur is 2 plus. So each sulfur is +1. In H2S, 2 hydrogen is +2, sulfur is 2 minus. So +1 and -2 is correct. Okay, shall I proceed?
Sir, can you explain the 39th again, sir?
Which one?
39th.
What you didn't understand, tell me.
Sir, shouldn't it be option B, sir? +2 +1.
No. Each sulfur, S2, F2, 2 fluorine is 2 minus. What is the overall positive charge on 2 sulfur? 2 plus. If 2 sulfur is 2 plus, what is each sulfur?
Oh, okay. Got it, sir.
Option B is correct. And how do you think +1 for sulfur in H2S, man? H2S is sulfur is 2 minus, no?
Yes, sir. I got confused.
Okay. Right. We'll take up 40. Which among the following is a disproportionation reaction?
Option A, sir.
Why do you think it is a disproportionation reaction?
Sir, P4 is 0, sir. In pH, it's +3, and in that it is +2, sir.
In pH3, it is -3. Hydrogen is +3, right?
Yes, sir.
How about in phosphorus in H2PO4 minus? It is plus 5. We calculate that. 2 plus x minus 8 is equal to
3 by 2,
minus
sir.
1. X is plus 5.
Yes, sir.
So, what is a disproportionation reaction? Where one element undergoes simultaneous oxidation and reduction. So, when P4 from 0 changes to plus 5, it is oxidation. Changes to minus 3, it is reduction. So, that itself is disproportionation reaction. Okay.
Sir, all of the above, sir.
All of the above can't be. I'll tell you why. See, this is B. PB is 2 plus. On the right hand side, this is small b actually. PB is 2 plus 1. Okay. And in NO3 minus, if you see, nitrogen will be plus 5. Okay. On the right hand side, nitrogen is plus 4. Oxygen on the right hand side, in NO2 it is minus 2. In O2 it is 0. So one element undergoing simultaneous oxidation reduction is called disproportionate. Here nitrogen is undergoing reduction, oxygen is undergoing oxidation. So it is not one element. So option B is not disproportionate.
Sir, C is disproportionate.
We'll see. Okay. See, MnO4 minus, in case of MnO4 minus, Mn is plus 7. Okay. Coming to the right hand side, in MnO2, Mn is plus 4. Here, MnO2 2 minus, this is permanganate manganate ion, plus 6. Can you people tell me, now manganese is existing in 3 oxidation states. Can I declare option C as a disproportionation reactant?
Sir, you said it should go oxidation and reduction both.
That's the thing. So here in option C, plus 7 becomes plus 4 reduction, plus 7 becomes plus 6 reduction. So there is no oxidation at all. So C is not the disproportionate. So only option A is there. There is no oxidized product of manganese in option C to the right hand side. You got it now?
Yes, sir.
Right. Shall proceed now. Next, 41. The equivalent mass of potassium dichromate as an oxidizing agent in acidic medium is
Half of its molecular mass.
right?
Sir, K2Cr2O7, it can lose 2 potassiums.
Okay. Is it because it loses potassium, it is oxidizing agent?
No, sir, it can
Because
gain.
it gains electron, it is oxidizing agent.
Sir, it can attain +2 charge overall, sir. So half.
K2Cr2O7 is potassium dichromate. When it changes to, in acidic medium especially, it changes to Cr3 plus. So 2 chromium on the left hand side. So there should be 2 chromium on the right hand. If you see what is the change in oxidation number. So this chromium in potassium dichromate is plus 6. So plus 6 to plus 3, gain of 3 electrons. But how many chromium are there in 1 mole? In 1 mole of potassium dichromate, there are 2 chromium, right? So for each chromium, there is 3 gain of electron. So into 2 is equal to 6 electron is gained. So just now we have seen in some question, right? What is the equivalent mass of an oxidizing agent? Molar mass divided by what?
Charge.
Change in oxidation number per mole. What is the change in oxidation number per mole? 6. So what is the answer? 1/6 of its molar mass.
Yes, sir.
Next. Which one of the following chemical reactions depict the oxidizing behavior of sulfuric acid? You just need to see whether in which reaction sulfuric acid undergoes reduction.
Option B, sir.
Okay. What do you think option B?
Sir, sulfur, sir, it reduces to thionyl chloride.
No, oxidation number of sulfur in sulfuric acid is +6. What is oxidation number of sulfur in sulfuryl chloride? This is SO2Cl2 sulfuryl chloride. It's +6 only. Okay. So it is option C. You can see here, sulfur is +6 and this sulfur is +4. So +6 to +4, gain of 2 electron. Gain of electron is reduction. The one which undergoes reduction is a oxidizing agent. Okay. Shall I proceed now?
Yes, sir.
43. A compound contains atoms of 3 elements A, B, and C with the following oxidation number. A is equal to +2, B +5, C -2. Possible formula of the compound is. Now, they have given oxidation number of each atom there. Which would be the possible formula means total positive charge on all cation must be equal to total negative charge on all anion. So that algebraic sum of the charges must be equal to 0. In which case it is correct?
Option B.
Okay. So first man, what is the charge on BC4 man? What is the charge on BC4?
-1.
Okay.
No, sir, no, sir, no, sir.
Hmm? Anybody? What is the answer? Oh, you can see here BC4 is there. What is the charge on B? +5. What is the charge on C? -2 into 4? -8. So now tell me, what would be the charge, overall charge on this entire complex ion BC4? What is the overall charge?
-3 only, sir. I said correctly.
Answer is correct, but you didn't say -1, you said.
Yes, sir.
+5 -8 is 3 minus. Correct, no? The BC4 overall, it carries 3 minus, but there is twice. Correct? When you multiply this -3 by 2 times, how much it will be? Total charge on 2 BC4 anion is -6. Now this -6 must be balanced by A. A3 is there. A3. A3 BC4 twice is the formula of the compound. What is the charge on A? +2. So +2 into 3, +6. So has it balanced? +6. Has it balanced with -6?
Yes, sir.
So therefore, this is overall charge is 0. So that's the correct answer. Oh, shall I proceed? '44. The equivalent mass of MnSO4 is half of its molecular mass when it is converted. This based on this, you can see molecular mass divided by 6, right? So total change in oxidation number for potassium dichromate is 6 per mole. So that's why molecular mass was divided by 6 to calculate equivalent. Here, equivalent mass of manganese sulfate is half its molecular mass when it is converted to. Now, what is the charge on MnSO4? Mn. What is the charge on Mn in MnSO4? 2 plus. If equivalent mass of MnSO4 has to be molar mass divided by 2, then the change in oxidation number of Mn per mole, 1 mole, should be how much? 2. What does it mean? Mn should change to Mn plus 4. In which of the following options Mn is plus 4? MnO2. Because in MnO2, 2 oxygen is 4 minus, manganese is 4 plus. So what is the change in oxidation number? Change in oxidation number per mole. Mn plus 2 changes to plus 4 means it is 2 units. So therefore, equivalent mass of MnSO4 is equal to molar mass divided by 2 is the correct. So when it changes to MnO2, its equivalent mass becomes half of molar mass.
Yes, sir.
Next. The oxidation number of bromine in sequence in Br3O8. Again, this is an ion with polyatomic atoms. So you need to know the structure, otherwise predicting oxidation number would become wrong. So what is the structure? 3 Br. Br are connected to one another, and 8 oxygen are bonded like this. So 3 plus 3 plus 2, 8 oxygen. Now can you tell me what are the oxidations? This is minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. So what is the oxidation state? This is plus 6, plus 4, plus 6. So option B. Shall I proceed now?
Yes, sir.
46. Using electrolytic method, if cost of production of 1 liter of oxygen at STP is ₹6, the cost of production of 10 liter of hydrogen at STP will be. See, hydrogen and oxygen will be produced by the electrolysis of water, right? So I'll give you the reaction. So let me know the answer, okay? So H2O, when it is electrolyzed, becomes H2 plus O2. If you want to balance, you take 2 here. It becomes 2H2 plus O2. So H2 and O2 are liberated in the ratio 2:1. Now, if cost of production of 1 liter of oxygen is X rupees, cost of production of 10 liter of hydrogen there are. How much? See, when 1 liter, so let's take this liter itself, okay? 1 liter of oxygen is liberated in the reaction. How many liters of hydrogen would be liberated in the same reaction? 2 liter. They are in the ratio 2:1, right? So for 1 liter of O2, if cost of production is X rupees, okay. So for 1 liter of hydrogen, what is the cost of production?
X
Because
by
in the place of 1 liter of oxygen, 2 liter of hydrogen will be liberated. So for X rupees, you would get 2 liter of hydrogen. So what is the cost of production of 1 liter of hydrogen?
X by 2.
X by 2, alva. So therefore, for 10 liter,
10 by 2.
10x by 2. That's all. Can I proceed now?
Yes, sir.
47. Given that E naught of K plus bar K means SRP, reduction potential of potassium, minus 2.93 volt, and iron minus 0.44 volt, zinc minus 0.76 volt, copper they have given plus 0.34 volt. Based on this data, which of the following is the strongest reducing agent?
CU.
Why Cu is the answer?
Sir, potassium.
Why potassium is the answer?
Sir, they have given from K positive to K, it is minus 2.93. So from K to K positive, it will be 2.93, sir, highest of all.
Negative, no? It is lowest of all, no?
Sir, reducing agent means it should oxidize itself.
So
So from K to K positive will be plus 2.93.
that means when you reverse it.
Yes,
K to
sir.
K
Reverse
plus.
the reaction.
Okay. That is one way. Other ones, you just remember the electrochemical, how electrochemical series in electrochemical series elements have been arranged in the increasing order of SRPs. Elements at the top of the electrochemical series have low SRP. Elements at the bottom high SRP. What is that I told you? Upar wala deta hai, niche wala leta hai. That means the one above has low SRP will give electron. When give electron, it is a reducing agent. So which is the one which is above all in the given option? So potassium, lowest SRP means the one which is placed above always give electron. One give electron is a reducing agent. Anyway, what your way is also right. You remove, this is reduction potential. You interchange this K plus bar K, K to K bar K plus you do. K bar K plus. Then it becomes plus. So highest oxidation potential means the one to go oxidation easily. So it is a reducing agent like that. You can also do. You need to remember the electrochemical series. That's all. Lower value reducing agent, higher value oxidizing agent. In fact, among all these, copper is the strongest oxidizing agent.
Yes, sir.
We'll take 48. Okay, 48. 8 grams of sulfur are burned to form sulfur dioxide, which is oxidized by chlorine water. The solution is treated with barium chloride solution. The amount of barium sulfate precipitated. Now, it is quite clear. Sulfur to sulfur dioxide, they only have given. Sulfur dioxide, when treated with chlorine water, we might not know what would happen, but they have given the hint here. The final solution is treated with barium chloride, barium sulfate precipitated. So obviously, if barium sulfate has to be precipitated after treatment with barium chloride at the end, sulfur dioxide must have been oxidized by chlorine to form sulfuric acid. Alva? Because sulfuric acid only contains sulfate, barium chloride is the test for sulfate. So the sequence of reaction can be represented like this. Sulfur is oxidized. Okay, it became sulfur dioxide. Again, it is burnt actually. So this is chlorine water is a mild oxidizing agent. So it becomes H2SO. and when it is treated with barium chloride, barium sulfate got precipitated. Now they started with 8 grams of sulfur. They're asking the amount in terms of moles. How many mole of barium sulfate get precipitated? B and there. It's easy. They're all in the ratio 1:1:1:1. So just need to find out 8 grams of sulfur becomes how many mole of sulfur. That's all.
0.5 mole.
What is the atomic mass of sulfur?
32.
So 0.5.
0.25.
So number of moles of sulfur is equal to mass by 8 gram by atomic mass. 1/4 is 0.25. So tell me, therefore, 0.25 mole of sulfur gives 0.25 mole of sulfur dioxide, 0.25 mole of sulfuric acid. So this is also 0.25 mole of barium. So answer.
Yes, sir.
Select the correct coefficients in the given reaction when it is balanced. Can you find it out? You have to find out which is undergoing oxidation, that is whichever is undergoing reduction. Then change the coefficients, the extent of oxidation and reduction to match with one another. Then look at the options. Without balancing completely also you can find the option here. That's why balancing equation in competitive exams is easy than in board. Because in board you have to solve completely. Here, half you can do and see whether options match. Anybody?
Sir, option D.
Why?
Sir, Mn plus 3.
You meant +3. Yeah?
No, sir, no, sir. Wait, sir, 1 minute.
Didn't get the answer.
No, sir.
See, let's write the reaction. They're asking about coefficient x, y, and z, right? So find out this oxidation state of manganese in MnO4 minus +7. Agreed. Oxidation state of each oxygen in peroxide is always -1. Okay. Now Mn has changed from +7 to plus 2. So it is gain of 5 electron. Now this oxygen in peroxide has changed from minus 1 to
0.
-2. Correct? No. So -1 to 0. This is okay. -1 to 0 means loss of electron. So a loss of 1 oxygen, -1 to 0 means loss of 1 electron. So for 2 oxygen into 2, so loss of 2 electron, right? For 2 oxygen. Now total loss must be balanced by total gain. For that, what you have to do? One is odd number 5, another even number 2, crisscross. So when you crisscross, so they have given the coefficient of X as MnO4 minus as X, H2O2 as Y, and H plus as Z. Correct? Crisscross this now. That means the extent to which the H2O2 undergoes loss of electron, that is oxidation, is 2. Extent to which Mn undergoes reduction is 5. This is 5 gain of 5 electron. Okay. Now you have to crisscross. That means X must become equal to 2 and Y must become equal to 5. So X is equal to 2 and Y is equal to 5. See which of the following exactly matches with these two. If you can find out the answer by this itself, no need to balance completely. Okay. So X is equal to 2. Option 1 is not there. Option A is 5. Option C is 1. There is only one option here. That's how they. So that is naturally balanced. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Go to last one, 50th. The oxidation numbers of hydrogen in potassium hydride, magnesium hydride, sodium hydride are respectively.
Option C, -1, -1, -1.
Okay. Hydride itself means H minus. H minus itself is hydride. In all these cases, hydrogen is -1. That's all. Okay. So this completes oxidation number chapter. So let me start chemical bonding now. Okay. Shall I proceed now? Chemical bond. The chapter is actually chemical bonding and molecular structure. Chemical bonding and molecular structure. In this chapter, we importantly study about few different types of bonds. Okay. So first of all, for molecules to exist in the nature, chemical bonds are very important. So any atom can combine to form a molecule, or any ion combine to form an ionic compound through the formation of a bond. So what is therefore a bond? A bond is just the force of attraction that holds any two atoms, ions, or even molecules together. Okay, that is what is a bond. Now, why a bond formation is always a natural process? If you see 118 elements in the periodic table, except noble gases, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, radon, rest all the elements exist together. So you may ask me, so how about nitrogen? Nitrogen is N2. It exists in combined state. How about hydrogen? H2. Oxygen, O2. How about helium? It doesn't exist in combined state. It exists as monoatomic gas. So N2, H2, fine. Then what about this iron? Does it exist in combined state? Iron is atom, no? Like helium. Does it exist in combined state?
No, sir.
Then this is also free state. Huh? It doesn't exist in combined state. It is in free state like noble gases. Can I conclude? How about carbon? Carbon, elemental carbon. Does it exist in combined state?
Sir, diamond doesn't exist, no, sir.
Diamond is carbon. Huh?
Sir, allotrope of carbon, no, sir.
So what do you conclude? Does it exist in combined state or free state?
Free state.
Okay. How about phosphorus?
P5.
Gold. See, we may write the formula as Fe, Cp, and Au, but you take a small sample of iron. In a small sample of iron, there will be millions of iron atoms existing together. Am I right? What bond is there between metal atoms? Metallic bond. Correct, no? So, iron, though we write a symbol as Fe, in a sample of iron, iron is not free. It is there along with other iron atoms existing together. It is not free. Similarly, carbon is not free. Even in diamond, carbon exists with another carbon by covalently bonding to one another. Even phosphorus is P4 actually. Au, a sample of gold can contain billions of atoms of gold. So obviously, it is not free. But only noble gases exist in free state, uncombined state. Rest all exist in combined state. Okay. Whatever the formula you may represent, that doesn't mean that it is in free state. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Fine. So every element in the periodic table except noble gases have a tendency to exist together. So why bond formation is naturally favored is the question. So the reason for bond formation. That means bonds are formed spontaneously, naturally. Any natural process is spontaneous. It takes place by itself. So what is the reason for natural tendency of bond formation? One is, see, generally during bond formation, a molecule is formed or a substance is formed. The substance formed will be more stable when compared to the independent atoms. That's why the combination takes place. So why stability increases? Most of the cases, so during the bond formation, octet is complete. That means elements combine and possess 8 electrons similar to noble gases. Octet is complete. Secondly, most important is whenever bond formation takes place between any two atoms or ions, energy decreases important. Because of these two factors, stability increases during bond formation. When stability increases, such process will always be naturally taking place spontaneously. So bond formation is a natural phenomena. It takes place spontaneously. Fine. This is the reason. Then we'll take up types of bonds. We have different types of bonds here. Ionic bond, covalent bond, another bond which is similar to covalent bond is coordinate bond, then is metallic bond, then hydrogen bond, not bomb, hydrogen bond, then van der Waals forces, interactions or forces, whatever. They are the weak forces, very mild forces. Last two, hydrogen bond and van der Waals forces, are very weak interactions. Okay, so between hydrogen and van der Waals itself is very weak. Hydrogen is relatively strong. So rest ionic, covalent, coordinate, metallic bonds are strong bonds. Okay, so generally what we can say, ionic bonds exist between ions. Covalent bonds generally exist between atoms. Coordinate bonds also by and large exist between atoms or even sometimes molecules between one molecule to another molecule or between ionic species. Metallic bond exists between two metal atoms. Okay. Hydrogen bond, there are conditions which we will take up later. The van der Waals forces can operate between anything and any, between any two atoms or ions or molecules. There is weak forces always operating. They are van der Waals forces. So this van der Waals forces and how it generates, all those things you have studied in states of matter. Okay. This metallic bond we have studied under solid state second phase. Then ionic covalent coordinate, then coordination compounds chapter itself is there. So there is much of the syllabus in chemical bonding about covalent bond itself. There is a little syllabus for ionic and a very little for hydrogen. Just mentioning of coordinate bond, that's all. Metallic bond under solid state, van der Waals forces under states of matter. So this is how exactly this chapter is designed. So about 75% of the syllabus is about covalent bond itself, because theories and everything come under covalent. So now we'll take up one by one. First one, ionic. Okay, so before that, just you know what is Lewis structure, Lewis electron dot structure. So Lewis electron dot structure, LED you can see. Lewis electron dot structures. What is that? So generally they are used to represent the valence electrons in a particular atom. Like sodium, if you write atomic number 11, how many valence electrons are there in sodium? 1s2, 2s2, 2p, 6, 10 is over. So 3s1, 11. There is one electron in the valence shell of the sodium. So what is the electron dot structure of sodium? Simply write sodium and write a dot. Like that for carbon, if you write electronic configuration and represent, carbon will have 4 2s2 2p2 electron. This is the electron dot structure. Similarly, oxygen 1s2 2s2 2p4, 6 electrons will be there. This is the electron dot structure. Correct now? Similarly, magnesium, when you take two electrons. So all the elements of the same group will have similar electronic configuration outermost. So magnesium, below that there is calcium 2. Oxygen, below that sulfur 6. Carbon, below that silicon 4. Silicon, right? So similarly, halogens, all halogens will have 7 electrons in their valence shell. So 2, 4, 6, 7. Like fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, correct? Yeah. So this is electron dot structure. They are just used to represent valence electrons. Now, ionic bond and ionic compound. How exactly it is formed? Now, see, sodium has 1 electron. When it interacts with chlorine, which has 7 electrons, so they both are having one common thing. Sodium doesn't want electron. This chlorine requires 1 electron. Why so? Because to complete the octet, sodium you see here, so it has one outermost electron in excess. If that is donated out, it can have 2 plus 6, 8 electrons remaining. Octet is complete. So sodium is ready to donate. So when it donates electron, sodium becomes Na plus, and Cl after gaining electron, it completes octet and becomes minus. So thus, cation and anion is formed. So between cation and anion, the force of attraction will be electrostatic. That electrostatic force of attraction existing between Na plus and Cl minus itself is called ionic bond. So similarly, magnesium oxide. Magnesium has 2 electrons. Oxygen has 6 electrons. So oxygen has 2 electrons short. So magnesium gives 2 electron and becomes Mg2 plus. And oxygen gains 2 electron, becomes O2 minus. Thus magnesium oxide is formed. So by donating 2 electron, magnesium acquires octet. By acquiring 2 electron, oxygen acquires octet. And between opposite charged ions, there is electrostatic force holding them together. That itself is called ionic bond. So like that, if you want, you can say calcium chloride or calcium fluoride. This is one. So calcium has 2 electron in its valence shell. It gives both the electron to the chlorine. One here, one here. Okay. So thus calcium becomes 2 plus. By gaining 1 electron, each chlorine becomes minus, and thus calcium chloride is formed. Now there are two things here. What is an ionic bond and how an ionic bond is formed? What is an ionic bond? An ionic bond is electrostatic force of attraction that holds two oppositely charged ions together. Then how an ionic bond is formed? An ionic bond is formed by transfer of one or more electron from valence shell of one atom to the valence shell of another atom. The one which donates electron becomes cation, the one accepts the electron becomes anion, and they will be held by electrostatic force of attraction, which is nothing but ionic bond. So this is how ionic bond is formed. It is electrostatic force of attraction. Okay. So when you say factors affecting, factors favoring ionic bond formation. Factors favoring ionic bond formation. So number one, generally the cation that would be obtained from a metal in ionic compound, one will be metal, another will be generally non-metal. The metal part should exist as cation, the non-metal part should exist as anion. So if ionic bond has to be readily formed, the cation should be readily formed by donation of electron. The anion should be readily formed by accepting electron. So if a cation has to be readily formed by donating electron, the metal atom should donate electron easily. Metal atom can donate electron easily when it has low ionization enthalpy. Low ionization. It is a favorable condition. Energy required to remove electron, if it is less, metal can lose electron easily. Cation will be readily formed. Similarly, non-metal atom. It has to gain electron easily means it has to have high negative electron gain enthalpy. Electron gain enthalpy means heat liberated when an electron is added to outermost shell of an isolated gaseous neutral atom. Generally, in most of the cases, when you add one electron to the outermost shell, heat is liberated. That's why negative, delta G negative means, delta H negative means it is exothermic. So there should be more heat liberated during the addition of electron. If more heat is liberated during the addition of electron, then that atom can readily get electron gained and become anion. So non-metal should have high negative electron gain enthalpy. Metal should have low ionization enthalpy. Third one, large cation. This is almost similar to the first condition. And small anion, for the reason that if anion is small, the effective nuclear charge will be more. It can gain electron easily. That's the thing. So these are all the things quite general. But one important factor which always affects ionization in this formation of ionic bond to a greater extent is lattice enthalpy. This lattice enthalpy is delta LH symbol. Okay. So what is lattice enthalpy? It is a change in enthalpy that occurs when 1 mole of an ionic solid is formed from its ions in their gaseous state. So 1 mole of ionic solid should be formed from its ions in their gaseous state. Then whatever the heat is liberated, that is called lattice enthalpy. Okay. So generally this lattice enthalpy is heat liberating process. It is exothermic, negative. And there should be, so during the formation of ionic solid, heat liberated should be more. That means high negative delta LH favors formation of ionic bond. So that means more heat should be liberated during the formation of ionic bond, then easily ionic bond can be formed. That's the meaning. But this ionic bond, lattice enthalpy, can be in turn affected by two factors. Okay. Yeah. So when lattice enthalpy can be more negative, so when high charge, as the charge becomes more, negative delta LH becomes more. Okay, heat liberated is more. That's the meaning. Negative delta LH. Similarly, small size of combining ions. So as size decreases, negative delta LH increases. As negative delta LH increases, ionic bond readily forms. Is easily formed. That's it. Okay, so that's about the factors affecting lattice enthalpy and also ionic bond. Then we have the characteristics of ionic compounds. Okay, so characteristic of ionic compounds. This you know of ionic compounds. Ionic compounds are made of ions. They dissolve in polar solvents. Also things. Okay, I'll brief it up there in the next class. Already 2 people, despite of the content, urgent. So 2 of them left. So that's fine. We'll meet for the next class for remaining portion of chemical bonding. My emphasis will be more on the theories, where little difficult level questions can be anticipated, and also you would have forgotten those MOT, VBT, VSCPR theory. I'll give a little more emphasis there, and rest while discussing MCQs, it will be revised. Not right. Okay. So fine. We'll meet for the next class tomorrow. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, I'm going to end the meeting.
Excuse me, sir.
Tell me.
Sir, can you please share the notes, sir?
This one, okay.
Yes, sir. And even the worksheet, sir.
Worksheet. Oh.
Okay, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.